and I've been with the firm Jiaquan for more than 12 years as a trademark attorney. And today we'll look at trademark non-use cancellation. This is a process or a tool that we use quite often, and there has been some changes since early this year, so it's worth to take a closer look at it. Here's how we walk through non-use cancellation in China today. Firstly, we'll start with the legal basis and procedural steps for filing a non-use cancellation. Next, we'll define what counts as valid use, covering use on goods and services. We'll also touch on whether minor variation in trademark representation is allowed, and how OEM and export situation is viewed here in China. And finally, we will review typical challenges foreign applicants face when defending non-use cancellation. And I hope you find today's content useful and helpful. So regarding the use cancellation, I think it's not unique in Chinese trademark system. You see it in many trademark systems around the world. The rules for starting a non-use cancellation and how easy or hard it is to defend against one can be very different from country to country. So because of that, foreign trademark owners are often don't how exactly what they should be doing when they face a non-use cancellation here in China. Non-use cancellation is very, very common here in China because China's trademark filing continue to grow. Now, I think it's over 50 million valid registrations on the registry. Many of these trademarks never actually used, or simply some of them are filed for defensive purpose. On top of that, I hate to say that, but there are professional trademark squatters who register trademark purely to profit from selling them later, rather than have any true intention of using them. So again, this backdrop, the use cancellation has long been a tool to remove trademarks that had been registered for 3 years but not put into actual use. By doing this, we clear the way of our new filings. This is also a big reason why we've seen a very sharp increase in non-use cancellation cases in China in the past 10 years. The chart on the left shows the number of non-use cancellation filings over the past 10 years. The figures may not be perfectly precise, but the overall trend is very clear. These filings have risen in step with ongoing growth in trademark registration. Under Chinese law, anyone can find a non-use cancellation against a trademark as long as it is 3 years old, above 3 years old. The burden of proof then falls entirely on the trademark owner. This used to be even more pronounced, meaning the practitioner only need to submit a very simple investigation report without having to vouch for its accuracy or objectivity. And the Chinese Trademark Office would genuinely accept the case. In turn, the trademark owner had to provide full evidence of genuine use, otherwise they will risk losing the registration. Unfortunately, there leaves some room for bad faith practitioner to exploit the system to gain negotiation leverage in some cases. So, starting this year, 2025, the Trademark Office has raised the bar for preliminary evidence quite noticeably. This, to be honest, made us a bit nervous at first because some of the measures the Trademark Office announced early this year felt a bit too aggressive. So I've made some tables summarizing the changes happened since early this year. Um, in From January to February, the Trademark Office began requiring practitioners in non-use cancellation to rectify it by submitting search results from at least 3 different platforms. Each platform had to provide 5 consecutive full-page screenshots starting from its homepage. Then, in March and April, the ratification requirement became even stricter. Petitioners and their agents had to formally state that they were not concealing the real party behind the cancellation and weren't hiding any important facts. They also have to confirm that everything they submit was true, accurate, and complete. Um, this essentially put an end to using strawman filers, which is allowed in the past. At least for now, for us as an agent firm, there is no longer something we would consider suggesting our clients. Um, and as things developed since May and June of this year, non-use cancellation practice has slightly shifted again. In early May, uh, during a training program in Shenzhen on regulating malicious trademark behavior, a senior official from the trademark office shared the latest development. The focus, it turns to be on cracking down 5 particular types of problematic cancellation filings, which is listed in the table to the right. And that essentially explains why the threshold for getting a cancellation case accepted has been raised to a high level this year. You may take a moment to look at these 5 types of malicious cancellation filing. I'd say that in most cases with Handle, they really don't fall into these problematic categories. So things are generally easy for us. The key is just we're just being a bit cautious before accepting a client's instruction. For example, uh, if our client instructs us to file an unused cancellation against a given trademark, and if we through online research find that that dispute mark is clearly being used, even if the use isn't that perfectly compliant, we may need to assess case by case whether it is still appropriate to file an unused cancellation. Well, so this is the basic process for an unused cancellation to take place in China. There is a flow chart here. So generally, from the moment a practitioner files a cancellation to when the trademark office issue a decision, it takes around 8 to 12 months. It's not super quick, but it's not very slow. You have to take into consideration that the whole process have provide some 2 months for the trademark owner to submit use evidence. So taking this into account, 8 to 12 months for a case to close is not too slow. I'd like to talk about the 2 months window. Because it is very important for a trademark owner to submit a full, strong, complete evidence during this phase, because at this phase there is no evidence exchange, meaning the petitioner, I mean the party who filed the non-use cancellation, um, doesn't know whether the trademark owner had submitted use evidence, nor do they know the details of it. So for the party facing cancellation, once they receive the notice to submit use evidence, they've been given 2 months to do that, to provide complete set of evidence. This is a hard deadline and cannot be extended. So failing to meet this deadline can lead to adverse consequences. The slightly good news is that the preliminary decision is not a final. It's not a final one. It can still be challenged. So there is room to turn things around. The trademark owner can file a review request within 15 days after receiving this decision, it is unfavorable decision, and after filing the review request, the appealer will be given a 3-month window to supplement evidence and argument. So unlike the preliminary stage, the review stage involves evidence exchange, which means the other party its knowledge about what you've been submit to the office and have the chance to challenge any evidence that you submit. So this also means any weakness in the evidence can be used to against the trademark owner. That's why it is so important to make full use of the initial 2-month window during the preliminary stage. We always recommend clients submitting complete, strong, and persuasive evidence upfront to maximize the chance of getting a favorable result. A favorable initial decision can usually discourage the petitioner from going into the review phase, which is generally not very friendly to trademark owners. People might ask what happened after the review stage. As with other review cases, if either party disagree with the review decision, they can always bring an administrative lawsuit to the Beijing IP court, to the IP court. But once the case moves into the judicial phase, the examination standard on evidence becomes even more stricter. So again, that usually doesn't work in the trademark owner's favor. Um, the Chinese trademark law does provide an exception for justified non-use. That means if you are not using your mark for some reason within this 3 years, there is still possible for you to get away with a non-use cancellation. So somebody may wonder whether this can be used to defend against non-use cancellation, especially for marks that have never actually used, such as that's defensive trademarks or serious trademarks. First of all, it's important to note that defensive trademarks and serious trademarks are academic concepts, not legal ones. So in other words, the law does not recognize these categories of trademarks and protect them from non-use cancellation. So in practice, the standards for what counts as a justified reason for non-use are very, very strict. The general principle are shown in this table. So in reality, only a few situations qualify, such as force majeure, government restrictions, bankruptcy, or other circumstances truly beyond the registrant's control. So in short, if a defensive or serious mark has not been put into use, cancellation is almost certain. So if we want to maintain this defensive or serious marks, the only practical option seems to be to refine them every 3 years, uh, but preferably making some adjustment to either the trademark itself or the specifications that the trademark covers. This practice seems still allowed at this time, but I'm not so sure if it is still allowed in the future because this apparently will increase the cost for managing the trademarks for the trademark office. This pie chart summarized the outcomes of non-use cancellation review cases from 2016 to today. So because many registered trademarks are defensive or they haven't even make into the market, um, they um, fewer than 20% of the challenged trademarks managed to survive the non-use cancellation process fully. This highlights how effective and cost-efficient non-use cancellation is for cleaning prior rights. But when the situation flips and our own marks are challenged, the question becomes, are we ready to respond just as effective? Now let's take a look at what is the what constitute use under Chinese trademark law. So when we talk about use evidence of trademark, it really comes down to two scenarios, whether it's on goods or on services. So let's start with goods. For products, the easiest and most obvious place it's on the product itself and its packaging, like labels, manuals, brochures, hand tags, and even price list. Then we can think about the day-to-day commercial documents such as sales contracts, invoice, sales receipts, delivery notes, and payment records. If you ever taken part in an exhibition or a fair, materials like contracts with the organizer, invoice, payment records, and on-site photo also can be a good piece of evidence on use. So apart from commercial side, advertising is another critical area. It's not just the ads themselves, whether they are online, in print, or other on other media, but also the proof that you engage with the advertisement agency to design, to produce, to promote your products. Oh, right. And don't forget the internet, such as search results, consumer reviews, and forum discussion. This can also show public recognition of your trademark, which is certainly can be viewed as use evidence. For service trademark, the concept is similar, but focus on service experience. You may look around your premises, sideboards, interior branding, staff uniforms, brochures, menus, even stationery. All of this can demonstrate use. Then there are your service transaction like contracts, tickets, receipts, anything that shows the mark was actively and used and associated with the service provided. It's useful. In practice, I believe many trademark owner will use their mark slightly different than it registered. So let's talk about this modified use. According to the Chinese court, minor differences between the mark as used and registered trademark are acceptable as long as the distinctive feature of the registered mark remained intact. In other words, small variations don't automatically invalidate your use evidence. But the authority is very strict about using the registered trademark symbol, which is the R sign. If you're using a registration symbol along your trademark, it almost never allows modification. So if you there is just one exception for print type trademarks or word mark, as you may understand it. Using a word mark in a slightly different font or in a slightly stylish font is generally acceptable. So outside the registration symbol requirement, modified use is often valid as use evidence as long as the distinctive feature of the registered trademark remained unchanged. Take this case, the Pigeon Corporation case, as an example. On the left is the registered trademark, and the right is the company. It's the trademark the company used in real business. The court accepts this type of use. In this case, the court believed the registered wordmark Pigeon Corporation had pigeon as its distinctive element. The company actually used a combined mark, as you can see, with pigeon plus pigeon graphic. The court held that the core distinctive part, which is pigeon, remained fully intact, and the public would not perceive the act graphic as a new separate trademark. So this use was recognized as valid. The key insight here is that the most important function of a trademark is to signal the source of goods or services. In non-use cancellation cases, what matters is whether the actual mark used retain the distinctive features of the registered mark, not whether it is exactly identical. The question isn't spot the differences, it's whether the used mark still performs the same source identifying function for the relevant public. Well, however, there's a nuance here. The Beijing Higher People's Court guidelines remind us that if a trademark owner have multiple registered trademarks and the mark actually used differs from the dispute mark, the court will look carefully at which mark is actually being used. If the use clearly applies to a different registered trademark, then the court may not support maintaining the dispute registration. So I've put two examples here. In both examples, even the marks in use include the distinctive element of the registered trademark. But what matters is the trademark owner had also registered this in-use trademark separately. Their use, therefore, the evidence related to this in-use trademark does not automatically support maintaining dispute mark. So when we collect use evidence, we have to keep at least keep 2 points in mind. Number one, the mark in your evidence must retain the main and distinctive feature of the registered trademark. Number two, if you have multiple trademarks, you must be able to show that the use is linked specifically to the dispute mark, not another one you own. So getting this right is critical because evidence that doesn't clearly match the claimed dispute trademark can weaken your position. Even if you have plenty of documentation showing genuine use, you might end up losing the case. Now, let's talk about time frame or timing. When it comes to proving trademark use in a non-use cancellation, the focus is always on the 3 years window. I mean, before the petitioner filed the cancellation request. Um, that sounds very obvious, but there here is the interesting part. The Beijing Higher People's Court guidelines makes it very clear that heavy use after the 3 year window after the 3 year window usually doesn't count. But in practice, if a trademark owner can demonstrate very little use evidence during that critical 3 years period, and can show that the mark has been used consistently and extensively afterward, that the later use can sometimes help to show that the mark was genuinely in use. So to sustain or to survive a non-use cancellation, it's not a guarantee win, but it can tip the scales. So the practical takeaway here is to prioritize the 3 years window when collecting use evidence. Prioritize the 3 years window, but keep track of what comes afterward. Examiners or judges may look at those use evidence that generate after those 3 years period. They look at the whole story. Another point we always need to keep in mind is that the evidence has to match the goods or services that are actually approved in the legislation. In China's system, um, use on certain goods or services can support usually can support other items within the same subclass. Items within the same subclass, they're usually deemed similar under Chinese system. So for example, in the case showed on the right, that's the one I handled, we submit evidence of use on software and similar item in the same subclass, such as USB flash drives, and ebook readers. Dissimilar items were also maintained. And here is a practical nuance. Business sometimes describe their product using non-standard terms, like marketing names or functional description or internal labels. But as long as the underlying products, it's essentially the same type as what listed in the registration, that type of use can still be accepted. But if the mark is used on a product not actually covered by the legislation, even that product is similar to what's been registered, the at registration is at risk of being cancelled. For example, if a trademark owner used the mark only on, say, whiskey, but whiskey is not covered by the legislation, uh, um, uh, they want to keep brandy on legislation in instead. Can that can whiskey use keep the brandy legislation alive? I doubt it because there have been many cases where such use was not recognized. So you have to pay attention that your use must match what has been registered in your trademark. Hmm. Okay, here we come to the third part of today's presentation. We'll take a look at common issues with use evidence from foreign applicants. I think this is the most interesting part. Well, when we talk about evidence in trademark cases, there are three qualities we always look at, which are legality, relevance, and objectivity. Legality is about whether the evidence is created and obtained in a way that complies with the law. In the cases I've handled so far, we rarely encounter issues with illegal evidence, so I won't spend that much time on that. The next up, it's relevance. Relevance means the evidence actually connects to what we are trying to prove, and each piece of evidence connects to one another and to one another. In trademark cases, this usually comes down to a few key questions. Number one, does the evidence shows the dispute mark or at least its distinctive feature? And is the evidence tied to the approved goods or services? Does it reflect the correct time frame? Was it within the territorial scope of the trademark, which is in China, mainland China's mainland? I mean, if you were to maintain a Chinese trademark and your use is only pertain to, like, say, Hong Kong, Macau, or Taiwan, that doesn't count. Yeah, your use has to be related to China's mainland. Okay, the last but not least of the quality of the use evidence is objectivity. Objectivity is about whether the evidence reflects reality in a reliable, neutral way. From a practical standpoint, truly objective evidence isn't created solely by interested party. It should involve a neutral third party like a bank, a logistic company, an independent platform, and so on. This directly affects the credibility and weight of the evidence. And even though we talked about legality, relevance, and objectivity separately, objectivity really runs through all of them. Without objectivity, even seemingly legal or relevant evidence can lose its persuasive weight. Let me quickly share a representative case illustrating the strength of objective evidence in a non-use cancellation. Our clients is in the fiber optics business and initially could only provide pro forma invoice issued to one of its Chinese distributor. So as you can imagine, uh, these documents, I mean, pro forma invoice, carry very little weight as evidence on their own. Without further evidence such as transaction record from the from the bank or a custom declaration form, the pro forma invoice alone can be very weak. Um, and unfortunately, in this case, the client won't be able to provide any further supporting evidence beside the pro forma invoice. Luckily, as we dug deeper and we found objective evidence online, the client's products were listed on some not very well-known third-party e-commerce platforms. But it's good enough because it provides detailed product descriptions and the day that it made to this online platform. This kind of independent verifiable evidence is extremely persuasive. So in fact, even just a single piece of objective evidence at the initial stage could be enough to persuade the trademark office to rule in favor of the trademark owner. That's exactly what happened here. We successfully defend the trademark and prevent it from being cancelled. Of course, the Chinese courts are now also recognized that evidence doesn't need to be overly rigid, as long as the trademark owner demonstrate public, genuine, lawful, and continued use of a trademark. Some degrees of tolerance on non-perfect evidence should be applied. So in this way, it will prevent marks that still have life and value remain in the market. So this case number two is another recent case I handle. A client was doing OEM business in China, and this I think this is a very typical business model that foreign applicant had with China. And this client, they provide the following evidence. Number one, an authorization for allowing its Chinese factory to use the trademark on the products. And evidence two, it's a confirmation letter from the factory confirming production of specific goods and use of the disputed trademark. And evidence number three is some pro forma invoice. Now the key question is, would this type of evidence be enough to defend the trademark against a non-use cancellation? Well, before we answer, a quick note on OEM use. Um, OEM means all the goods are fully exported and not sold publicly in China. So this used to be a controversial topic on whether this constitute use or not trademark use in China. But now it's currently recognized as valid use that can resist the 3 years non-use cancellation. So back to our evidence. At the stage, we are slightly on the weaker side. That means there is a real risk that the trademark office could find that the trademark wasn't genuinely used. And even we managed to keep the registration at the preliminary stage, this level of evidence will likely have a hard time holding up if the opponent found a final review. If we break it down to the three quality of evidence, we can see this set of evidence have no issue on legality. The trademark authorization, it's legal and 100% compliant. And in terms of relevance, that also reasonably solid. The evidence shows the dispute marked connects to the approved goods, reflects the relevant time frame quite well, and demonstrate use within the territory, which is in mainland China. The problem really is objectivity. This is the weak spot, I think, in this case. All the evidence were created solely by the interested party. If you take a closer look at it, you will realize that all the evidence are created solely by the interested party. There's no independent third-party verification, which will significantly limit its persuasive power. So how can OEM trademark owners who makes up a large scale of foreign applicants and often face real challenges in collecting solid evidence defend against a non-use cancellation? What should what should they do? What should we do? This is the key takeaway I want to leave you with today. The strongest evidence comes from official or third-party documents generated during the export process. This carry high objectivity and credibility. The key types includes export custom declaration. The declaration form submitted to the Chinese custom is authoritative and comprehensive, usually very comprehensive. It includes details like the domestic sender name, overseas recipient name, manufacturer, shipping bill and date, contract number, destination country, product name, and some specification regarding the product and so on. It's very detailed. These details can be cross-verified with other transaction documents such as invoice, packaging list, or bills of lading to form a relatively complete, comprehensive evidence chain. So the number two, the second useful evidence will be bills of lading. These are issued by shipping company when the goods are handed over. They contain sender and receiver information and some information regarding the ports, the product details. In non-use cancellation cases, this type of evidence can support the actual fulfillment of the OEM contract. Sorry. So the third type of strong evidence on OEM business is the certificate of origin. This is usually issued by customs or trade promotion authorities with official seals on it. So they confirm the manufacturing origin of the goods and also help show the transaction was real and properly executed. So before we end today's presentation, here are two more practical tips for OEM business. I'll say always request custom forms from your OEM factory or your export agent and ask them to always note the trademark on the declaration form. I think that's workable, that's possible. And number two, focus on quality over quantity on use evidence. You might want to correct a very high quality set of use evidence every 3 year, every 3 year for one set or two sets of high quality evidence. That's what's necessary, what needs to be done, what should be done for OEM business. And okay, that's all for today's presentation. I hope it was helpful. I'm happy to take any questions you may have on today's topic or any other related topics.
Hi, Rick. Thank you very much for such an informative presentation.
No problem
I
at
just
all.
wanted to go back to one of your earlier points at the beginning of the presentation to confirm whether the recommendation is not to file an anonymous cancellation any longer. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Mm.
Actually, we are not allowed to file a non-use cancellation without revealing the name. We have to file an entity. This entity could be a straw man, but this is allowed
Mhm.
in generally allowed in the past. But now we are not recommend our client doing so. Um, but at the end of the day, I think if you file non-use cancellation using a straw man, that straw man only file just a handful of non-use cancellation every now and then. The chances is it'll be okay. It will be not a very big issue.
I see. So it would be more problematic if the same entity is used to file multiple cancellation
Correct.
actions. Okay.
Correct. That's right. That's right. If you
Mm.
receive instruction from client that the client have already provide us with a like a strawman entity to file a cancellation, in my view, that's okay as long as that entity is not used as a professional strawman. That'd be okay.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem. No problem. Um, any other questions, guys? If you don't have any further questions, or if you have any further questions after this meeting, you can always feel free to contact us, contact me.
Thank you. And can we share the slides? Will we receive the slides, maybe?
Oh, sure, no problem.
Great.
Yes, no problem. I shared with you through email.
Great. Thank you very much.
No problem, no problem. Thank you very much for being here today and for your interest in this presentation. And yes, just like I said, just feel free to drop me an email or yeah, if you have any questions.
I have one question.
Sure.
Did I understood correct that in the second instance proceedings, the decisions are confirming the first instance decision? If the mark was cancelled and
Mm,
then there was an appeal, then
yeah.
the decision on the appeal would, in majority of cases, confirm the decision of the first instance.
I would I can only say that the at the appeal stage, the examination standard on use evidence will be more strict. So if you're a trademark owner, if you have submit some evidence that is not as perfect in the initial stage, the favorable decision might be overturned in the appeal stage. And if we're representing the non-use cancellation petitioner, we might get a better chance to have the non-use have the dispute mark cancelled in the review stage. I don't know if I
Okay, thank you.
yeah, I don't know if I understand your question correctly, and if I have
Yes,
addressed your
that was my
question
question.
properly.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. No, yes, no problem. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's call it a day here. And yeah, just like I mentioned, just let me know if you have any further questions through emails. All right. Thank you. Thanks very much for your time and your interest today. And I wish you have a very good rest of the day.
Thank you, you too.
Yes, yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Ciao.